how good are you a shooter? That's the point here that you need to consider if you want to become a professional basketball player. Now, we all know nowadays game stretches out to what, 30 feet from the basket, but it's a progressive uh, steps that takes you there. Okay. Again, a lot of players I see nowadays love to shoot threes, all warm up, all game, all day after school, every single day. And once you take away that 3-point shot, they can't make anything else. Okay. And I think that's an area where, as a basketball player, if you're looking to take it to an elite level, you need to build all aspects of your shooting, starting with the fundamentals. And that's obviously the motion, okay, and the follow through and the high release. Okay. And everyone shoots different. That's the point. There's no picture perfect textbook Ray Allen shot that everybody shoots, as much as we all like to shoot that. Okay. But you go away and you master your shot. Okay, focusing on that sort of release and that sort of elevation and the rotation of the ball coming off your fingertips and your follow through. Okay, and then you go away and you be able to knock down that 10-footer, 15-footer, 18-footer, then you're 22 feet at the 3-point line and beyond. And at that point, if you're willing to go and put the work in and you can consistently, okay, make those shots, okay, once again, in a game, it translates into a player that can score in all areas of the floor once they're given the space. Okay. And if you're one of those players, you're on the right track. But if you're a player that goes, oh, well, I'm great at shooting threes, but, if I get a lane and I drive into it and I can't make that 15-footer, I think you've got a bit more practice there. Go back a few feet. All right. Keep shooting some more reps there at that 15 feet.
Well, there's so much more though. So it's not even just layups, right? So layups are an easy way to get points, but as you progress through either the years, so perhaps you've got a child that's playing under eights or under tens, most of the points come from layups, right? And then even in your older year levels, you'll get potentially 8 or 10 points on a lot of leak outs or a lot of like easy layups, but eventually that stops. Eventually the paint gets kind of packed or the defense is pretty aware of it. And that's when the shooting comes in. Now, you mentioned, all of these different types of shots, but that's just distance, right? So, there's low post shots, there's high post shots, there's off the dribble, there's sidestep, there's step back. There's open shots. Like that's an underrated one, just open shots, right? So when you do tryouts for specific teams, they are not putting defense on you for every single shooting drill. They actually need to see, hey, can this guy knock down 50, 60, 70% of the open shots? Because if you can't even do that, all right, well, there's a TikToker, I cannot remember. It's a shame I can't. There's a TikToker who was very famous. He'd over dribble and then he'd throw up threes and he'd just brick it every single time, right? But he looked really good while doing the dribble moves and then just bricked it on the threes. You don't want to be that kid. You don't want to be that guy. You've got to nail your open shots so that when a coach looks at it, says, okay, he's hit 8 out of 10 threes pretty much every time. So we put him in a game situation. We can drop that safely down to 4 out of 10, which is the percentage that teams are realistically going to accept. But if you go into a shooting drill, no one's around you, it's a quiet gym, and you go 1 of 10 or 2 of 10, and it's not just once, it's every single time, then there are things that you need to look at. Are your shoulders not square enough? Are your feet not set? Is there something wrong with your follow through? And there's so many guides that you can get either from coaching or from videos to fix that up, that you probably need to work on that. Now, when you look at the NBA, there are players that fix their jump shots as the years progress. Lonzo Ball is probably the best example, who came in with a really wonky shot and then straightened it up. And his 3-point percentage has gotten better every year. But then there are a couple of players that never seem to put it together. You look at players like Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard, who never really figure it out from 3-throw line. But the difference between them and probably you is they're kind of like 7-foot behemoths that I think are just physically built in a way that they don't have the finesse to do it. But for the average player, you should be able to improve your jump shot.
You're absolutely right. I think that first section there, I was talking about range and obviously mixing up the spots that you can score from. But you're talking more so about scenarios. Okay. And that's a huge one there. Can you finish with contact? Okay. Can you finish with that open look? Like you said, you've got plenty of space here. No one's closing out. Can you knock it down? Can you finish with a hand in your face? Okay. Can you finish when here's a classic one, tired? Okay, can you still
Mm.
shoot that ball at a high percentage when you're tired? And I think I could name another 100 scenarios, but the point here is that as a player, when you're working on your game to hopefully maybe become professional one day, okay, you will need to create these scenarios in in as many ways as possible. Okay, and the easiest and only way really to do so is to play basketball in all shapes and forms, whether that's playing at school with mates and a similar level, maybe playing against older players as well in a going to the playground or in the local park sort of situation, and just playing in all different scenarios so you can work on these sort of shots and playing to the point that you're tired. Okay, because if you're playing to the point where you're exhausted, that's simulating a situation where you're now in the fourth quarter of the game and it might be a high stakes game and you're tired and now you're going to go out there and got to get a bucket. Can you still get that bucket? Can you still knock down that shot? And shooting, I think, we all talk about that, just shoot free throws or just shoot threes. Okay, there's so many aspects of shooting. Okay, that you're never going to master them all, but if you master some of them, then you give yourself the best chance, I think.
Well, even just the free throws that you mentioned as well. There's a lot of analytics that go into it, especially high level scouting that look at certain percentages. So let's say you're a player that comes in and you're shooting 80% from the free throw line, but 30% from three. There is, for coaches at least, with shooting coaches, etc., there's enough potential there in your free throw shooting that they can translate that to the 3-point line. But if you come in and you're shooting 30% from three, but 50% from free throw, then they're looking at you saying there's a fundamental issue with your game. And if you are somehow good enough to have those statistics, but also be playing at a high level, then again, the defensive schemes that come against you is put a tiny bit of contesting on the threes, and he's probably going to miss, or she's probably going to miss. And then on the free throws, like, well, we'll foul them because statistically speaking, we're only giving up 1 point, not two.
Get your fundamentals in place.